Letters from the front. Following letter from Mr. R. McMinn, written at Enslin, dated January the 1st, 1900, addressed to Mr. B. McKenna of Castlemaine, is descriptive of the movements of the first contingent. Mr. McKenna receives letters every mail from some of the Castlemaine boys at the front and has kindly placed them at our disposal. After a few preliminary remarks, Mr. McKinn writes, quote, "Well, to start with, we had a very tough time in Melbourne. Drill every day and plenty of beer at night at 1.5 D per pint. When we got to Adelaide, we got a lively reception. When we got out of the train, we formed up and marched to the town hall and had a good spread. Plenty of wine, beer and soft stuff. So somebody must have drunk 9 bottles of lemonade. When we arrived at Albany, we had another spread. Some of the boys went into a pub and asked for a glass of beer each, but they could not drink it. It was frightful. On leaving Adelaide, we were vaccinated. My arm was very sore after it, and as it was just getting ripe, one of the fellows hit me on the arms with a slipper, which made the wounded portion turn blue. We had sports on board. We were bluffed out of the bayonet exercise, for we'd done it splendidly. No kid. We had to get up every morning at 6 o'clock and make our beds and scrub out the cabin passages and decks. We arrived at Cape Town on the 26th of November after a pretty fair voyage and landed on the 27th and marched 5 miles to Maitland, where we pitched our tents. We stopped there until December the 1st, struck tents at 4 o'clock in the morning and marched into Cape Town. Left there about 12 o'clock for the front. We were in the train 37 hours. When we got to the Orange River, we pitched our tents close to the Shropshire Regiment, which was 1,025 strong. We were out on picket one night when we stopped an English officer and sergeant. They could not give the password, so they could not get through. The officer got very wild and pulled out his revolver, and the moment he did so, my mate pointed his rifle at him and told him if he moved another inch, he would shoot him. We got to the place where we were camped, and our sergeant asked the officer to give up his arms, but he refused. So we got round him with fixed bayonets, a very tough-looking lot, and made him hold up his arms while the sergeant went through him. He didn't like it at all. He wanted to know what regiments we belonged, but the sergeant would not tell him, so he said, "I suppose you are some of those bastardly Australians." What a cheek he had. But we made it pretty rough for him, for we kept him there from 7:15 to 2:30 a.m. in the bitter cold. The major came out in the morning and highly complimented us. He wanted to know who the sentries were. I thought he was going to make me his ADC at least, but it didn't pan out that way somehow. We left Orange River on the 7th of December for Belmont. We were up at 3:45 a.m, struck camp, and were away at 6:30 a.m, arriving at Villiputs, 11 miles distant at 9:30 a.m. We thought we were going to camp there, but we had to leave again at 9 p.m. We marched 2 miles out, camped there till 12 p.m, and then we moved along again. I can tell you it was a very rough marching behind transport wagons. We would go about a quarter of a mile, then spell a quarter of an hour, and then a little further, then stop again. We arrived at Belmont, and then you should have seen the position the Boers had. You would think that all the soldiers in the world could not shift them. I went over the battlefield and saw 2 dead Boers covered with stones, their head and feet sticking out. It was a sickening sight. We left Belmont for Enslin on Sunday, December the 10th, a distance of 13 miles, and as soon as we got there, we had to go on picket duty straight away as one of the koppies. We got wet during the night and daylight. We could hear heavy firing and we could see the shells bursting up at the Modder River. It was a terrible fight. Nearly all the Grenadier Guards and Black Watch were killed or wounded. They marched up in quarter column to within 50 yards of the Boer trenches when the Boers began firing right into them. The Gordons were not meant to be in the front at all because they were guard of a convoy, but they wanted to go, so General Wauchop let them. And when they got within 1,000 yards, they extended on their own hook. The general turned round and said to his colonel, "Look at them, they could not do anything like that on parade." They were lying in the sun for 7 hours and were without food and water for 2 days. They came back here on the 14th in a terrible state from the sun, their legs below their kilts being all blistered. They are a jolly nice lot of chaps and will do anything for us. On Christmas Day I was on the ration party and started at 3:30 a.m. drawing water for the whole camp, numbering 1,500. Then, after breakfast, I had to go out with a wood party for wood. Those with me were a lot of Melbourne men and could not or would not use the axe, so I had to cut it nearly all myself. Got back in time for a Christmas dinner such as I had never had before. Roast beef and spuds with their skins on. Not bad, is it? We had a pint of beer presented to us, very tough. You could almost stand on it, it was so thick. We went on picket duty at 5:45 p.m, so had tea, curry and rice sent up to us. We also got our ration of rum, 4 tablespoons full, neat measure. We got a present from the captain in the shape of 2 pounds of butter among 120 men. I don't know how he could spare it. On Boxing Day we were supposed to have some sports, but they were postponed owing to the death of the colour sergeant of the Gordons. He died of pneumonia, only had 20 minutes, buried next day. Regarding ammunition, we have 150 rounds to carry on picket, sleep with belts on and magazines. They hold 11 rounds and can be fixed without taking the rifle from the shoulder. On Saturday the 30th, up at 2:30 a.m. on picket, flies, something terrible. Rum served out at night, a bottle between 50 men, averaging a spoonful each. Extravagance, if you like. On Sunday, the last day of the year, we came off picket at daylight. Plum puddings arrived today, and some were 1 shilling and others were 4p per tin. Church parade this morning, the men went with rifles in one hand and Bible in the other. Also 150 rounds of ammunition in their pouches, not too slow, in one hand peace and in the other war. The blacks here are not bad sorts, but of course you must take them as they come. There is not much hope of getting a VC the way things are going, but if we go to Muggersfontein, where the Highland Brigade got cut up, I don't think any of us will come back at all, for I believe it is a terrible place. The Boers have a frontage of 10 miles and 3 rows of trenches, one above the other the whole distance, and barbed wire entanglements beyond them, so there is not much hope for infantry. We Australians are not satisfied. We want to get to the front. We got highly complimented by the General for our march from Orange River to Belmont. It was a record march for transports. We have got some very tough sergeants. They know as much as a recruit. I wish you were here, but it is just as well as it is, for you would never eat the tucker. Coffee and dry bread for breakfast, soup and meat for dinner, and tea and dry bread for supper. 1 pound of bread has to last 3 meals. It's fairly black and sour. We were thinking of saving it up, and when we got to the front, put it in the cannon. It would never break. No, the meals are hardly as good as at Menny's. We have a bath parade once every 5 days. We turn out in squads of 8 or 9 and walk into a hole 5 feet in diameter and 2 feet deep and throw water over one another. The water isn't exactly Malmesbury Reservoir water, but you either take it or leave it. The Boers say that the Australians are the only ones they are afraid of because they can stand the heat, but we can't get a chance to get to the front. I will give you more news next letter, and excuse pencil and writing, for they don't deal in tables and chairs and stationery here. Mr. McKinn concludes by wishing to be remembered to all his friends and enemies, and asks for his letters to be addressed to number 73, Victorian Infantry, South Africa. Hi everybody, good morning to you. It's a Sunday, and I'm in a town called Kerang. Kerang! It should really be spelt with 2 R's, because Kerang was a heavy metal magazine way back. So Brian's away in his caravan, and I thought I'll catch up on a few Boer War monument videos. So I'm on my way to Swan Hill. You might remember once before, when we were up Echuca way, we were considering Swan Hill, but it's just too far away on that occasion. Victoria is like a bird's beak, and the top of the bird's beak is where Swan Hill is. But if you were to go to the far end of the bird's beak, that far, that would be Mildura, and that's like bloody 300 kilometres away from here, or 400. So we're not doing that. And of course I pulled over to get my cup of tea. I've got some ham and mustard sandwiches, and I can see the monument already. But before we go out and have a look at it, I'll give you a bit of a update on about 2 months away now till I fly out to South Africa. If you speak to me regularly, you sort of know what's going on, but for the rest of you, if you're remotely interested, so yeah, I think in the 2 months before I can actually start getting things working. So I did message some tour guides over there regarding Boer War battlefields, and they were remotely interested, but you know, they were looking at 6 months down the track, and they're not going to give a great deal of commitment with that sort of time span. So I'll contact them again in the next month or so and give them my dates that I'll be there. And I've made quite a list of places I want to see. Battlefields, so we've got Diamond Hill, Noordgedacht, Modder River, Paardeberg, Spienkop, Colenso, there's others. I've made a huge list of them, and also places to do with the Boer War. Verenigen, where they signed the peace treaty. Paul Kruger's house, which is a museum. Mafeking, of course. So I hope to I'll arrive in Johannesburg on a Sunday night, get my bearings for the first day or two, get myself a hire car in the first day. Brian's going to show me around over there about how to get to a shopping centre, you know, just the arrangements of going to a bank and all that sort of thing. And then I'll go to Mafeking probably on the Wednesday, so I have 2 nights in Johannesburg with Brian. Then I'll drive off to Mafeking, and then I'll sort of come back for the weekend. Got the new laptop. The laptop is fantastic. I've got the new version of Vegas Pro, which I use for the video editing. Got version 20, which is it's got all bells and whistles, but I'll keep it basic because wherever I am, it's going to be hard to upload the videos to YouTube. It takes about 6 hours at our place, but then again, we've got a sort of satellite dish on our roof, so I don't know when I'm in South Africa how long it'll take to upload Boer War videos. And yes, I'm really happy with the new laptop. I'm happy that I've got all the stuff loaded on it that I need to take with me. And I think it's about it to tell you at the moment. So stay tuned. You'll be coming with me. If you're interested, you can sit on my lap on the Qantas plane. So we're at a Boer War monument in Kerang. Now I did ring Kerang one time about this memorial hall, which I can see behind the monument. I wanted to get in because there is a plaque on the wall regarding the men that fought in the Boer War from this district, but the woman actually rang me back from the council. Right, so yeah, so this is the RSL and the Memorial Hall, as I was telling you in the video cut out, but the woman rang me from the Kerang Council. She said it's very rarely open, the Memorial Hall. They have functions here occasionally, but she did say she'd come down and open it up for me. But I'm here at a Sunday morning, and it's really just a wooden plaque with gold lettering with the names of the people that served over there. Oh, look at that. Can you see? That's a big gold board with all the World War II vets. So it'd be similar to that. She said she'd been in the hall many times and never noticed it. So that's no big deal. So here's what we are here for today. It follows that pretty standard design, doesn't it? I call them a plinth, sort of a marble granite. And there's that design we've seen all the time. Tribute of the officers of the Victorian Mounted Rifles, non-commissioned officers and men, to the memory of Lance Corporal C.J. Cullen of Kerang, who died at Pretoria, South Africa, the 3rd of September 1900. I'll try and remember to get the camera right down there. This is an Osmo DJI, and it's good for wide sort of angle type images, but it doesn't have a zoom on it. Anyway, let's see if we can get a photo of us. There we are. Brilliant. Maybe a thumbnail. Okay. So we'll take a moment to look at that. And I'll tell you a bit about the memorial. So Pretoria, yeah, we'll be going to Pretoria. That's where the Port Kruger House and Museum is. That's where we arrived on the train when we left Durban. We arrived in Pretoria before we were sent to Brakpan to start work for Dad's bakery. When I say we, I didn't start work, he did. But as a family, yeah, we went to Brakpan. Let's have a quick look at this mortar. This would be fantastic for the garden art, wouldn't it? Pop a few mortar shells across the neighbour's fence if they're making noise. A medium trench mortar, it's German. A Minenwerfer. Wow. Right, so we got to go to Swan Hill now, which is about 60 kilometres from here. We will be going past my sister's house. She lives in a little place called Lake Boga. She's not home at the moment. They're away in their caravan as well, so